to your right. Over here.
Thank you.
We're trying to get you guys up on Instagram. All right, you just got an invite. Hey, everyone, while we're waiting for Instagram to catch up. Yay, it worked. It worked. Okay, perfect. All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Live. Yay. So you might recognize my guests because we have them on fairly often because they're friends of mine. I see a lot of them, especially in the next couple of months. We're going to be seeing a lot lately. Of each other. Yeah. And the next couple of months are going to be like the crazy whirlwind tour around the country. So this is Dennis Becker and Les Fischer from All Provide. So Dennis is the founder, owner, and CEO, bringing years of experience in leading, building, and managing a high-growth, perishable consumer pet food company out of Norcross, Georgia, which is just outside of Atlanta. As a steward of animal welfare, Dennis is passionate about the future of pet well-being, sustainability, and developing fresh products that help improve pet lives and the health of our planet. He's also pretty darn good at sailing big sailboats, I understand. I'm going to find out in a month. If I get lost at sea, it's his fault. And I could think of worse things.
Yeah.
And Les Fischer is also with him as managing partner and COO. He has been with All Provide since the company's launch in 2014. Good staying power.
I don't know how he did it.
I don't either.
There was a couple bumps in the road, but he is HACCP and PCQI certified, which means that he is responsible for all the safety that it goes into producing safe pet food and eliminating contamination and all that sort of stuff. He's involved in formulation research, product development, and working with the farms. He's passionate about alternative natural remedies and is a lifelong advocate of pet welfare. And isn't that your new addition sitting there in Dennis's lap?
That is.
And we don't put her up here. She climbs in my lap to get up here. She wants the camera.
If you're working, she's like, "Oh no, I'm working with you." So
she's adorable. I can't wait to meet her in person. Okay, so Dennis and Les and All Provide, they are our major sponsors for the Naturally Healthy Pets Experience Tour. And our last stop is going to be October 28th in Tinton Falls at the Doubletree Hotel. That's in New Jersey. And they're our diamond sponsor. And I want to tell you people that are listening that you may have heard great things about our Chicago event because it was amazing. This is the last one on the tour, and this one is selling quickly because New Jersey's my old stomping grounds. So I have a lot of clients from there. I have a lot of friends from New Jersey, New York, Delaware, Pennsylvania. So if you haven't gotten your tickets and you're thinking about it at all, I would get them soon. And VIP tickets are selling faster than general admission. So if you want one of those VIP tickets, you better jump on board. Let me see. The VIP tickets include preferred seating throughout the event, more goodies in the swag bags, copies of all the presentation slides, a VIP lounge throughout the day serving snacks and refreshments, and a cocktail reception that Saturday evening from 4:30 to 6:30 for VIPs, speakers, and major sponsors. So let's see. At this event, we will have Billy Hookman speaking. He's going to be sharing new microbiome science. I haven't heard that talk, so that'll be interesting. Angela Ardolino is going to from CBD Dog Health, and MicroDog is going to be talking about adaptogens for cancer, gut, and autoimmune disorders. Tons of information in there. Michelle Allen will actually be speaking as well on the upside to palliative care. So tons and tons and tons of stuff going on at this one. So I don't miss this one, folks. And like I said, tickets are selling much faster for this event, and it's because it's my old stomping grounds. And this one, we do have a hard stop. In Chicago, we could have put more people in the room if we needed to. This one has a hard stop on the number of people that we can fit in that room. So if you're on the fence, get signed up. Anyway, so Dennis and Les decided that for today's live, they wanted to present me with questions that they have gotten from people about the Constitution's diets. So All Provide makes a beef, a pork, a chicken, and a turkey recipe. You also have puppy and senior. And then Pup Loaf is a gently cooked that you guys make. And Pup Loaf is now available in pet stores as well, right?
It is.
It is. Okay. And then we have the new Constitutions that was just launched a few months ago. And so Constitutions is a set of 5 different diets. They are not single protein, but they were designed by me to address TCVM, food therapy, which is traditional Chinese veterinary medicine food therapy. So we know that with food therapy, we can affect behavior. We can affect the energetics of the pet, whether they're too hot or too cold. We can affect their organ systems because each element or constitution is ruled by specific organs. So these diets were designed to help rebalance if your animal is out of balance. So let's say you have a wood constitution dog, a German Shepherd who's a working dog who, and this happened a lot. Well, I can use this as an example. During COVID, this happened a lot where animals who were out doing jobs and working could no longer do them. We had a lot of metal personality dogs who really liked structure and routine. They were going to nursing homes and schools and hospitals prior to COVID, libraries for reading and spending time with people as therapy dogs. And then they weren't allowed to work during everything being shut down. And a lot of those dogs became very frustrated, whether they were wood personality, metal personality, and they had lost their structure, their routine, their job. And so that made them get really out of balance with their constitution. And so the diets are designed to help rebalance. We don't say that they are healing or treating a disease. They're rebalancing and allowing the body to kind of get itself back where it needs to and help sort of reset where their mind is coming from and what the organs are doing. So that's kind of the basis of it. So if you guys have some questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Of course. So the first one I have a 6-year-old female that's been diagnosed with osteosarcoma. I don't even know if I said that right. I have been feeding it basically a raw diet, but after a visit to the vet, they recommended a gently cooked diet. Which diet would be best?
Really hard to say because I don't have any information. So osteosarcoma can occur in any animal. Did they say what the breed was?
They did not. They just said they had a 6-year-old female.
So yeah, so I don't know. What I would say is you need to take the pet personality profile and figure out what your pet's personality is. But I can tell you that usually with osteosarcoma, we've got heat, we've got stagnation. Frankly, you could feed any of the diets. They're complete and balanced. So any dog could eat any of them and they'd be complete and balanced. But what you might find if you chose the wrong one, their stools might be a little soft or their symptoms, whatever you're seeing, increased panting, red tongue, pale tongue, wet tongue, whatever you're seeing, you might find that it doesn't really improve. So then you have to go back and look again and say, okay, does my dog have an excess problem or a deficiency problem? And all of that's explained on the pet personality profile. And a lot of it is also on All Provide's website. But I can say that all of the diets that are made by All Provide are very low carb. So whether you choose gently cooked or raw, it doesn't really matter. They're all going to be very low in any starches and carbs that would feed the cancer. So any of them would really be appropriate. My little dog with cancer is eating All Provide. He's actually eating their turkey and their pork and doing very well because he had a lot of heat and a lot of that heat is dissipated and he's doing really well. And his cancer is actually very well under control. Knock on wood. Because he's on a low carb diet. And, you know, your veterinarian saying that they want gently cooked instead of raw is just being uber cautious. My cancer dog is still on raw food. I have no problem with raw food. If they're getting chemotherapy or are on high doses of immunosuppressants, maybe we'd have a little bit of a concern. But certainly any of the gently cooked are going to be safe for that.
Perfect. We have one. Do the element diets really help with emotional behavior issues? And how do they help?
Absolutely. So let's take those dogs that I was just talking about. So, for instance, the wood personality dogs who are, um, so frustrated by not being able to work. And so, what happened? I'm a wood personality, so I know this one very intimately. When you get frustrated and you hold it in, it comes out as an explosion. And you explode over things that you normally wouldn't because it's just this frustration that builds up and it's like a volcano that is just like, and so, for instance, you take that German Shepherd and you put them in a position where they don't have any control, like a veterinary visit, and all of a sudden they're lashing out and trying to go after whoever is trying to make them do something, and it's just their frustration. So the way the diet works, we could use the wood diet because it does have ingredients built into it to help drain what we call liver qi stagnation, which is basically frustration buildup in that element. And it's an emotional response. However, if we look at how Chinese medicine works with the 5 elements, wood is trees and plants that grow. And metal is the axe that cuts down the wood. So we could also use the metal diet to control the wood and get it, because his wood is excess. His wood is waiting to explode. So when we feed the metal diet, we're chopping down his tree a little bit and rebalancing and bringing it back in control. So the same with that metal dog. If they're having an excess problem where they're lashing out because they're frustrated, they're not able to do their job, and you can just see it in them. They're just like, ugh. Then we could use the fire element that controls the metal. So you might want to feed that. And then we could also drain the metal element, or we could drain the wood element, and then we have in the descriptions, it tells you how to do that. So you actually can approach it from a lot of different directions. But each one of the diets is balanced so that if you have an excess or a deficiency in that element, it's going to kind of support both. So it's going to fill in the voids. So for instance, if you have a blood deficiency, it's going to help fill in that void. We see that a lot in fire element. We see blood deficiency because that controls circulation. So we're helping support that, but at the same time, we're helping put out the fire so it doesn't get excess.
Makes sense. Okay, let's see. What do we have next? Based on the pet personality quiz, my dog should be fed wood and water. Does that mean I can do 50% wood and 50% water per meal, or should that be separated?
Oh, you can rotate them. So you don't have to mix them at every meal. You can feed wood one day and water the next. I don't know how big your dog is. And so I usually, with our 5 dogs, I feed 1.5 pounds per meal. So I thaw out 3 pounds per day. So I might thaw out the same thing for breakfast and dinner, or they might get one thing for breakfast and a different one at dinner. You don't have to mix the 2 together per meal. So however it works for you for how often you have to thaw food out and how long it takes. So if you have a small dog and it takes you 2.5 days to get through a package, you can feed that package for the 2.5 days and then go to the other one for the next 2.5 days, however you want to do it.
Okay. I have a rescue. Okay. If you start your dog on a wood diet, how long should the dog stay on the diet? When are they balanced? And
when they are balanced.
When they are balanced, when the season changes. So
yeah, so you definitely can change with seasons. So for a wood dog, spring is when wood will be at its peak. So if you have a dog who's excess, then in spring we're going to want to damp that down a little bit. If you have a dog who's a deficient wood, and again, the symptoms of that are listed on the website and on the pet personality profile. So if they're deficient in spring, then we've got to feed the wood to bring them back up. If they get too excess in spring, so for instance, wood, which is spring, is the liver and gallbladder, and commonly we see seizures associated with the wood element and liver stagnation. So if you have a pet who's prone to seizures, their seizures might get worse in the spring. Interestingly, I've had a few who their seizures get worse in the fall, and that's because their wood element is deficient. So that's the opposite time of the year. So that's when it's at its weakest. So that's when you would want to support that. You would want to be feeding that wood, and you might be feeding the mother of wood, which is water, to help build it. So you have to look at, is my pet too excess or is my pet too deficient? And that is what's going to tell you. And so you probably are going to have to change with the seasons. And that's what's so cool about it, that you have the ability to be able to do that and say, okay, well, my dog's seizures are worse this time of year. I need to look at, is that too much? Is it because he's got too much wood or too little? Where do I need to fix this? And we can see Shen disturbances, which are basically mania, problems of the mind. So we see that with seniors with cognitive dysfunction, but we also see that with, I'm going to use sorry for anybody who owns an Irish setter, but I'm going to use an Irish setter. They're usually fire personalities. They're bright red. They're very young. They very hyperactive. Like they want to be going all the time. And so when we get into the summer season, that's when it's at its peak. Well, we better cool that dog down. We better feed him like a water diet and just, like, let's bring him back down a little bit, because he'll just be crazy and uncontrollable. And you don't want your fire dog racing around like a maniac in 100-degree heat. You're going to get heat stroke.
A crazy Irish setter? I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
We owned one for a little while. She's crazy. She was crazy. Nice dog, but crazy.
I actually have my dogs walk in a group every morning with a bunch of other dogs. One of their dogs has kidney issues. He was feeding a competitor's Gently Cooked. And that's when he noticed the kidney issues. Not that would be the cause, but what would you recommend he feed? It's an overweight 12-year-old dachshund.
So the one thing that we do want to make sure that and we don't know, I have seen this dog's lab work, and he's got some significant kidney disease at the time the lab work was taken, but we didn't have a urinalysis with it. So I don't know whether the dog truly has significant kidney disease or whether the dog was sick and dehydrated at the time that the lab work was taken, and maybe those results were, a little bit skewed. So we definitely need more information. But anytime we have elevated kidney enzymes, whether it's the BUN, the creatinine, the SDMA, a very dilute urine, we absolutely want those dogs or cats to be on a very high moisture, very high quality protein diet. And so depending on the stage of the kidney disease, and this dog on the lab work that I saw, it's questionable whether this dog is at the point where the protein levels in the diet need to come down a little bit. So, do we just mix it with some sweet potatoes, something like that? And I think we need to ask him to get some new lab work so we can look at that. But moisture is one of the biggest keys when it comes to any kind of kidney problem. And the dog is overweight, so feeding a high carbohydrate kibble-based product is going to cause more inflammation, more problems, and more obesity, and potentially add diabetes onto the other problems that we have going on. So, my recommendation would be, I can't say whether that dog would be able to be on the typical raw diet, which is very low carb, or whether this dog needs to have that diluted. So for instance, my Stewie, my Cavalier, who was in heart failure and kidney failure from his heart disease medications, we had to modify him. So I left him on his regular all provide diet, but I diluted it about 40% with sweet potato. That solved the issue, brought his kidney values right back where I needed them to be, brought his potassium level up where I needed it to be without having to add any kind of supplements. And that worked really well for him. So every pet is going to be an individual, and you have to look at their lab work and see where they are, and then have that conversation with your veterinarian. Is my dog in stage 3 or 4 kidney disease? In which case, yes, I can dilute that protein out a little bit with some carbs or fats. But no matter what, a dog with kidney disease needs high moisture, high quality, highly digestible proteins, particularly if we have to back down on the protein. What they are getting better be really digestible and high quality.
Thank you.
Another one, my dog has watering eyes. Will any of the diets help?
So with it, and so watering eyes, are any of the diets going to help? It kind of depends. The eyes are the window of the liver. So I might try the wood diet because that rules the wood element rules liver and gallbladder. So I might try something like that. I would also make sure that dog's on a good probiotic, and it just depends. Watery eyes, is it because of pollen in the air? Is it a clear discharge? Is it a thick discharge? Is it a gooey discharge? Are there any hairs? Is it a Shih Tzu where the hair is rubbing on the eye all the time? There's so many things that can cause that. So I would definitely have the pet checked, particularly if it's excessive, because they can get blocked tear ducts as well, so that the glands aren't draining. But if I were going to pick an element diet, it would probably be wood, because the eyes are the window of the liver.
Okay, which we at? Okay, I'm interested in purchasing the element food for my dog. According to the personality quiz, she checks off 10 traits of fire. So I thought I should order the water element diet to counteract the excess fire. However, the first ingredient listed on the water element diet is chicken quarters, and I thought that was not recommended for fire personality.
So the chicken's going to be warming, but the water element has other things in there to direct the heat downward to the kidneys.
Okay.
So we also could help drain the fire by feeding the next element around, which is going to be earth. Because earth is the child of fire. And when we feed the child, then the parent doesn't have to be constantly building and feeding it. So we could actually help drain it by feeding the earth diet. So that might help too. So I might try water and earth. Earth may be a chicken base too. I can't remember.
Okay, if my dog is allergic to one of the ingredients, should they still try the diet?
That depends.
I think we
So if you think that your pet is allergic to, let's say, chicken, my question would be, is your pet allergic to chicken based on a piece of paper and a lab test that said the pet was allergic to chicken? Because we always take those with a grain of salt. Or have you tried not feeding your dog anything else and feeding only chicken for a couple of days to see what happens? Because when I adopted Myra, she definitely could not tolerate chicken because it had been the main ingredient in the really bad dry kibble that she had been fed for so long, and her skin was horrible. After 6 months of an elimination diet, we went through pork and also rabbit. Then she was able to eat chicken, no problem, because she wasn't truly allergic to chicken. She just couldn't. And I think if I had gone back to a dry kibble-based chicken, she would have broken out all over again. But whole food chicken is very different from what we have in kibble. So I would say, if you know for a fact that if you feed only chicken, your dog is going to have a problem, and that's fresh whole chicken, then I would avoid it. If you are surmising that based on a blood test or the fact that they couldn't tolerate chicken kibble, then I would say, don't know. So if you truly know that they're allergic to one of the main ingredients in the food, then I would not choose that one.
Last one.
Okay, the last one. I have a rescue Walker Hound that was just diagnosed with CHF and hypertension. She has extreme anxiety and absolutely melts down over rain, storms, and loud noises. I'm trying to see which food I should feed her as the constitutions go.
I'm thinking the fire diet, because she sounds like she definitely has a Shen disturbance with those fears. And we've also got a heart problem. So I'm thinking this dog needs the fire diet. Did they say what personality she came out as? Was it a fire?
I don't think they
didn't.
Okay.
It was a Walker Hound.
Yeah, I would say that dog needs the fire diet. I don't know what the dog's element is. Walker Hounds could potentially be wood, but sounds to me, I would try fire because that's going to support the heart, and it's made to support the Shen disturbance that goes along with that. So congestive heart failure and a Shen disturbance they go hand in hand. She might actually want to look at my blog on cognitive dysfunction, because there are 2 different herbs recommended based on the Shen disturbance that the dog has. And so I think one of them matches her dog. So I would check that blog as well. Cool.
There were some questions, but we're wrapping up here time wise. There were some questions on the
Okay.
on the feed that was up a little bit.
Let me see if I can find them. Let's see. Let's see. Sunny is a fire. Thought I should feed her that. Sounds like it's more complicated than that. She has issues. It sounds like wood would help in rotating those. That's fine. And so we were talking before we went live, and we did have someone who their dog was a wood personality, and they thought they needed the wood diet, and the dog had soft stools on the wood diet. They gave it a couple of weeks, and it wasn't really resolving. And then they finally decided the dog was excess. So they gave the metal, which, remember, metal chops down the tree, and the stools are perfect, and the dog is much better. So, sometimes you have to relook at that personality profile and kind of really dive a little bit deeper into it and say, okay, well, yes, my dog is a wood element, but is my dog showing a deficiency or an excess based on the symptoms, which are listed on the website and on the personality profile. So small 7.5 pound Miki has IBD, doesn't do well in the heat. What constitution would be best for him? Can't really say for sure. And so something, an animal with IBD, that's an inflammatory problem. I think the first thing that I would do is actually put that dog on a novel protein diet. So if you haven't fed rabbit, I would find a pretty pure rabbit. Do that for a couple of weeks and see if things get better. And then you have to add one thing at a time. Pork would also work. All Provides pork diet might be a good novel protein for you to try with that dog. With the IBD, you might want to try with gently cooked first. And if you don't want to buy it gently cooked, you can gently cook it yourself. That's fine. But I would look at a novel protein and try to because the problem with the constitutions diets, if your dog has an intolerance, they are multiple proteins, a lot of them. And they have more ingredients in them. So I would look for, first we have to get to the bottom of what's causing the IBD. Okay. Let's see. Willow had a seizure yesterday. Any recommendations for flea, tick, and heartworm? That's a different conversation. What do I recommend for Cushing's disease? Those are, they're endocrine disorders. Probably, I would consider the water diet for that. My new book has recipes for Cushing's as well. But one thing I can say about Cushing's disease animals is that they don't do well with carbs. And so really, frankly, any diet that All Provide has is going to be great because they're also low on carbs. And that is really our big thing that we see with Cushing's disease dogs. They are generally hot in the beginning. And then once we start getting them under control, then they're a little more even keeled. And the other problem that we see with Cushing's disease is that with any endocrine disease, a lot of these dogs have Cushing's, diabetes, hypothyroidism all rolled into one. So you need to make sure that you're looking at all of those things and not just the Cushing's so that you're not overlooking something. I would also, for the IBD dog and the Cushing's dog, I would definitely test vitamin D and B12 levels. Because especially with the IBD dog, I guarantee that dog is not absorbing all of its nutrients well. Vitamin D levels, even if you're feeding a complete and balanced diet, may not be being absorbed, and that dog may still need some supplementation. And low vitamin D contributes to IBD, contributes to heart disease. So that heart disease dog, also track your vitamin D levels. All of my guys are on complete and balanced diets, but particularly my cancer dog, needs a lot of vitamin D supplementation and B12 because he's not absorbing as well. So we know that those vitamin deficiencies, even if if your dog is not absorbing, even if you're feeding a really high quality diet that is complete and balanced, they're still deficient. So we need to look at those things and figure out what each individual animal needs. And so like I had one once that was low in vitamin D, and the owner said to me, I do not want to add a vitamin D supplement. What can I do? And I said, well, you can add more sardines to the diet. And she did. And the vitamin D came up on its own. So, sometimes we just need to tweak the diet a little bit, and we can add whole foods. And sometimes we're going to add supplements in there. What diet for a Sheltie with calcium oxalate bladder stone prone to mucocele? So calcium oxalates, we basically need low oxalate foods, and you can look at the list of those. And most of the All Provide diets are low in oxalates, although spinach is kind of high in oxalates. We do have spinach in a couple diets, I think.
We do.
Yeah. So, and then for a diabetic dog, any of these would work. I think any of them. Okay. All right. So tickets to the event in New Jersey can be found through our website. Somebody's probably going to put a link. There you go. The NHP Experience NJ. And we're thrilled that All Provide has been a sponsor and been with us at all of these events. We will be with these two gentlemen at Bark in the Park in San Jose on September 17th, I believe it is. 16th?
Days away.
So yeah, days away. It's whatever that Saturday is. It might be the 16th. And then they will be with us at AHVMA in San Diego, which is the Holistic Veterinary Conference. We'll be together in New Jersey. I don't know. We're all over the place.
Maybe.
We'll be at Global Pet next year. Yeah, we're everywhere because we're nuts. Like, good thing
You'll be
like
making
you
the
guys.
rounds at Global, I'm sure.
Yeah, good thing I like you guys.
Thank you.
That's
We
all I
like
can
you
say.
too.
Anyway. Now we got the other dog. What's that one's name? I can't remember that one.
Berkeley
And Bonnie.
Cute. Do they get along well?
Oh yeah.
I mean, actually, Bonnie terrorizes Berkeley a lot. It's kind of funny. She'll go around and just start biting the back of her leg.
Yeah. The small ones are always in charge. Let me tell you, my two little guys, they're like terrorists. It's WrestleMania every morning for about 2 hours. And every once in a while, somebody will bite down too hard, and then it turns into, like, okay. They're like typical brothers. Like, I love you. Let's play Army. Oh, now I hate you. Like, really? Anyway. Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. And everyone
Thank
else. We've got Raw Pet Medics coming on at 2:00, I believe. So just
You got a busy
hang out
day.
with us. Thanks, guys.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Yeah.